Hey, hope all is well. You're listening to episode 7 of The Employer's Emphasis. I'm your host, Adam Varahachakol with Employers, America's small business insurance specialist. The Employer's Emphasis features all kinds of content, from interviews with people not only from employers, but others within the insurance industry and great nonprofit organizations we support. In this episode, we dive into what many insurance agents and carriers consider to be a hot topic: API, or Application Programming Interface. I had a great conversation with members of the Employer's Alternative Distribution team, Chris Champlin, Diantha Kelly, and Basilios Manasiunakis. We talked about the importance of APIs for not only employers, but agents as well. We also learned more about the Alternative Distribution team and the members I chatted with, who has a combined 5 decades of experience in the insurance industry. They're fun people who gave some great insight you don't want to miss. But before we get to that, and my conversation with them, last year, Employers unveiled its new appetite checker within eAccess to help its agency partners quickly identify eligible employers' classes of business. Today, they're now expanding its reach by partnering with Ivans Market Appetite, so agents can review their appetite from various resources at their fingertips. It's free and available to all agencies, accessed online or through agency management systems, and integrated into daily workflow, allowing agents to quickly find carriers who have appetite for your commercial risks. Ivans Market Appetite searches by commercial class of business and immediately presents agents with a list of insurers, MGAs, and wholesalers with an appetite for their specific risk. Agents can dictate their appointed and preferred markets, so search results clearly indicate and rank the agency carrier partners by line of business. By providing a simple, automated solution to connect agents with carriers, Ivans Market Appetite drives greater efficiency and expands market opportunities. And with one click, Employers agents can log into eAccess to start a quote in our Get a Quote engine. Agents, be sure to set Employers as one of your appointed and preferred carriers within Ivans. Your Ivans Market Appetite Administrator can do this by logging into Ivans Markets and going to the Appointed Markets tab at the top of the page and searching for Employers. This will help simplify your workflow by always having quick and easy access to our appetite details. For more information about Ivans Market Appetite, head to our website at employers.com, scroll toward the bottom of the page to Insurance Agents, where you'll find the Ivans download link. And now, without further ado, I have in the Employers studio with me the Alternative Distribution team. Since there's 3 of you, I want the listener to get a first opportunity to hear your voices, so let's go around and introduce yourselves with your name and what's your title?
Chris Champlin, Director of Business Development for Alternative Distribution.
Basilios Manasiunakis, Client Relations Manager.
Diantha Kelly, Client Relationship Manager.
Awesome. And before we jump into API, what is the Alternative Distribution team and how does it fit into the Employer's strategy? Chris?
So the Alternative Distribution team at Employers is really a unique, specially designed team. So what makes us special at the organization is we're a separate profit center, but we're also part of the greater sales philosophy. Anybody that's on this team, they need to have really a hybrid approach to both sales and technical. When we've talked to our API partners over the years, they really express frustration with other carriers because they have a disconnect between their sales philosophy and their technology solutions. So at Employers, we've built Alternative Distribution team to have those core competencies to where they can speak to developers, they can speak to the distribution side, and marry the best of those together. So our team as a whole, we try to prepare to answer 95% of the questions that we get, either from the developers or the agent or the CSRs. We need to be able to answer those all together.
B, you have something to add?
So just adding to that, I think, for someone who's relatively new to the organization, the thing that I appreciate about Employers is that we're an extremely flat organization. We always hear about the 3-legged stool analogy in insurance, right? Bear in mind, we're distribution focused with our solution via API, right? And Chris hit on this, and it's so true, and I see it in action is our 3-legged stool is sales, IT, and underwriting, and we are very much on the same page, where in other organizations, the business side might make that commitment, and then the IT side comes in and says, wait, we can't deploy that. Like, why did you promise that to the end customer? That's not happening at Employers. We're all bought in. We all have consistent communication. I think that's really what makes me proud of how our team fits into this strategy, and then just purely from a company culture standpoint.
Yeah, what makes the alternative distribution team special?
Me. Just kidding. Just kidding. All joking aside, first and foremost, I'm surrounded by an extremely talented group of people. Chris is a phenomenal leader. Diantha is a seasoned pro. She's been with Employers since we were a state fund, right? And just think about that journey of being a state fund to now a nationally publicly traded carrier. She knows the nuances and the challenges of some of the things that we might encounter. And she also knows how to overcome those. So for someone, again, newer to the organization, to be able to lean on her and on Chris has been tremendous. And for me, it's always been a people-first mentality. And so that's, I think, really what makes us special. I think the other piece, too, is we're just all very passionate about what we do, like sincerely passionate. I mean, we sit and we talk and we nerd out over this stuff, right? I mean, we're real geeks. And so I think the other piece that I really love about it is that we have an ability to act like a startup in what's historically been a traditional carrier, right? And so not that we have pure autonomy, but we have the trust from our senior leaders to say, hey, we're trusting you to do what's in the best interest of our business. And if you make the right recommendation, we will fully support you on that. And so I think those are really the two key things for me is the people, and then again, the culture, right? And then that kind of startup mentality, which I really enjoy.
Ms. Kelly?
Yeah, I'm going to second beyond that startup strategy. I've been here for so long with the company, and it just kind of reinvigorates everything, knowing that I stepped into a team where it really is a startup within an old company, and it's really great. We get to really be very creative in this team. We get to work with a lot of amazing partners out there that have so many incredible ideas. And it really pushes us to just keep thinking and moving the ball forward. Like, what do we do next? What's the next thing? What's the next big idea? And where we've seen other carriers, their strategy is okay, or it worked for a while, but for us, we want to just keep moving the ball on that and stay in front of the whole industry. I just think that we're just a fun team, like you said. We like to geek out. I'm a total geek. I love this team, and it's been so much fun since we started it.
Awesome. So let's jump into APIs now. Why are APIs all of a sudden a hot topic among insurance agents and carriers? Chris?
Speaking from the carrier standpoint, the InsurTech investments that we're seeing billions of dollars being invested right now into insurance technology. So a lot of that is opening up the opportunity for carriers like us to capture more customers via an API connection. So that's why on the distribution side, Employers is interested in being part of that. And from the agent perspective, agents are always looking for ease of doing business for their customers and for themselves. So API has really caught their attention with carriers utilizing APIs and that capability being available to them.
So why are APIs an important piece to the Employers' distribution strategy? Yeah, Diantha?
I feel like with Employers, their strategy is to be able to meet the client where they really want to do business. And we realized with all of the tech companies that were out there that was jumping into the insurance arena, and, as Chris was saying, there's a lot of money being thrown that way. We knew that there was a lot of very, very small businesses that are going straight to the agents' platforms to do business. And we knew we needed to be on those platforms to get more market share that way too.
Yeah, for sure. And why should agents consider a digital or API strategy? Basilios.
Great question. So I'm going to take kind of two approaches in answering this question. So first, I'm going to use a real life example. Just think about the way we used to bank, right? We used to drive to the bank, write a check, fill out a deposit slip, and then wait in line for the teller. Think about how that's evolved today. Now you just grab your phone, you snap a photo. I think the talk track around digital strategy and API strategy, a lot of the industry talk has been like, well, the millennials are coming. It doesn't just apply to the millennials. It applies to every generation that's practically out there, all the way to, the Gen X, the Gen Z, the millennials. It encompasses that. So I think this is an expectation that we have now as an industry, right? The other piece is for us is we should probably define what digital strategy means for the sake of the discussion. It can really mean all sorts of things to different stakeholders in the agency. So when you think about the marketing manager at the agency and they think about social media, or how can I get access to markets, or the IT guy in the shop or gal in the shop, and to them, digital strategy probably means cloud. Ultimately, what digital strategy is it's leveraging technology to improve business performance, right? And so that whether that means creating new products or reimagining current processes, which I think we all know is a point of friction for the agency base today. And so if the agent isn't thinking about creating competitive advantages using technology, and using those tactics as well, they're putting themselves at risk. So I think it's a non-negotiable for our industry today.
Yeah, can you provide high-level examples of where an API strategy can help an agent be?
I'll try to use a real life example again. Diantha touched on it a little bit around how we're leveraging it as a company, but we're really using it on the distribution front, trying to use our APIs and deploy our APIs to meet our customers, and that's the agent and the prospective policyholder where they want to transact business. So not necessarily coming potentially to the true independent kind of channel, but still being facilitated by the agent. So a lot of our focus right now is acquiring new customers based on how they want to be acquired.
Chris, you have something to add?
Yeah, another way we're seeing agents leverage APIs to help capture new business is in the small business world. Employers is focused on small business. So for an agent, sometimes handling small business isn't as profitable. So a lot of times they turn away a lot of those smaller businesses from helping them find coverage. And with an API, it helps them be more efficient to where that efficiency now makes handling small business more profitable through an API. So it opens up doors handling a different customer set than they're traditionally able to handle.
And so kind of just to piggyback off of what Chris said, I think it's going back to meeting the expectation set of our customers, right? And so this allows us to give them that real-time interaction, not waiting 3 days to get a potential quote indication, right? They're getting a quote back from employers literally within seconds, saying it's bindable, it's ready to go, now go out and grab that customer and acquire it. So I think that's an important piece of the equation is it's allowing us to become more real-time because that's the expectation not only that the customer has, but we have for ourselves as carriers, right? Is how can we get to the end customer, whether it's the agent or that policyholder, the quickest with the least amount of questions, with the least amount of friction.
I also think the agents really want to have their own customer experience that they're sharing with their clients too. And so I think this allows them to help control that experience. I know from some very real examples that people are really excited that they could get that customer just coming to their platform over and over and over again. And the experience, just as they evolve, we're evolving with them. And it's been a really exciting journey to see how it's evolving with the agents too.
Diantha brings up a great point around helping control the customer experience. In my season in insurance, a lot of the discussions with our agency partners is it's my relationship, right? And so we're helping them deploy that via API and technology to help create that experience that it's the relationship is with the agent, not with the carrier. We're not trying to take that over. We're trying to help foster that relationship for the agency and help service it and provide the great claims experience and those aspects of the business. But at the end of the day, ultimately, insurance is still local and relationship driven, and we want that to be for the agency.
Should an agent consider building their own API and connect it to employers?
Yeah, that's a really great question. We get asked that all the time from other agents, even some of our core agents that haven't even thought about how's this journey going to happen. So I think it's something that we have to come back to them and have a real discussion with them, like what kind of resources do you have? Do you understand the endeavor you're taking to scale this whole project? It's a huge project in itself. So if you don't have the developers on site and the strategy thought out, it might not be the best way to go. But what they could do is work with one of our partners, maybe one of our platform partners that we're working with, where they have already built that strategy. And some of them, it's no cost to that client. Some of them do have a cost because there's a different experience for them. But there's a lot of different partners that they could choose from where they're not having to build from ground up the whole strategy. There's a lot of great companies out there that they can work with. But for those that do have the strategy, we've seen some partners just their ideas are amazing and they do have the resources behind them and they keep us on our toes, and it's pretty exciting to be working with these partners.
Mr. Champlin?
So when we're talking about an API strategy with our agents and they're thinking about building it themselves, we typically talk to them whether they should build it, rent it, or just buy it somewhere else. And I think with the industry today, there's options out there for them. So if they're interested in build it themselves, then talk to us at Employers, because we have the resources to help them build it, or we can refer them if they don't want to build it themselves, if it's too much of an endeavor. We have partners we've already connected through API with that we can refer them to and that we've had success with. So the important part for the agents that want that experience is that they talk to us and we can make sure they're taken care of.
The other thing I wanted to mention too is one of the things that I really enjoy when we do go down the path of working with some of the partners to help them build. Maybe they've already decided to build and now they're integrating with Employers. One of the things I really feel very fulfilled on my job is that I get to help consult with them on how that whole flow works works? How is it the best experience? Because we've seen a lot of experiences out there, and just helping them get that experience really refined so it's the best path for their clients to take.
Basilios?
At least in my opinion, when an agent's considering building an API, I think they really need to take a step back and understand what their vision is for it, right? And more importantly, look back at the landscape of carriers that can support that strategy, right? Because the reality is while carriers are out there saying that they have this capability, there's a lot out there that don't or aren't where that agent wants to be, right? So we're in a lucky position that we've deployed our technology for several years now, and we're pretty proud of what we built and feel like we're one of the market leaders and really an expert in this space. And what we found is we talk to our agency partners that say, hey, yeah, I want to move forward with this. It's kind of the cart before the horse, so to speak, right? They start building, and then they start realizing, hey, I can't support this model because I don't have the appropriate markets on here. And so I think it's just reinforcing that thought of taking that step back, understanding that landscape, and understanding what your vision is for deploying something like this, because it's an expensive endeavor. Even if you're building it yourself or you're running it or you're buying it, there is a lot of cost that's tied to it that could impact the agency positively or negatively depending on where it goes.
Yeah, so if an agent does decide to build their own API, what questions should they be asking carriers that they're considering?
Yeah, first thing they should do is just do their homework with carriers. They should have discussions with each of the carriers that they're working with to see what their future vision is for the API strategy or with technology in general. The job of carriers is to make our agents look good out there. And if a carrier does not have the strategy to make them look good on the technical side, then they should not be partnering with them on an API strategy. So the biggest thing is understand what that carrier strategy is. Another important piece is that they need to make sure there's alignment between the technology strategy and both the sales and underwriting approach at the carrier. Where at Employers, we've partnered along many different departments, from underwriting to sales to technology to claims, to make sure we're speaking together and our strategy works within all departments. And if you have a technology solution but the carrier hasn't made their questions more user-friendly for the customer, then it really doesn't help the product. So just make sure your carriers have a good vision for number of questions, the customer focus. Is it going to be more efficient with an API or less efficient? If it's less efficient, then why invest? But at Employers, we've made it a lot more efficient for the customer, so it makes sense.
What is Employers' vision when it comes to evolving the digital agent API product?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we're, like I said before, we're constantly thinking of what's next, right? That's so important to always challenge ourselves with what's next. We never want to say we've hit nirvana. Clock's just ticking. We're just moving along. But I think one of the things that we want to do is continue that customer experience for our agents. And we have so many different types of agents out there that we're working with, whether it's a comparative rater agency or they're offering a one specific product where they're putting our product next to it, our workers' comp product. So just making sure that we can help them meet that customer the way they want to do business. And I think that we want to also make sure that we're offering all of our end-to-end services through API, where a customer will go out to the agent's platform and do all their business out there versus having to come do part of it on their platform and then come into our platform to finish it up. I think that's going to really set the journey apart for most of our customers out there, and I'm pretty excited to see where we take it.
Chris, you have something to add?
Yeah, when it comes to evolving the API product, we're really looking at the customer focus side of it. We have over 40 to 50 agency councils every spring and fall with our agencies throughout the country. Through those, we're trying to listen to hear what's important to them and what's important to their customers. We're taking that and really trying to evolve our API product to meet those needs of the customers. Plus, with most of our API integrations we already have in place, we have weekly sessions with most of them to where we're not just trying to solve today's problems, but we're trying to solve future problems as well. A lot of those future problems aren't known yet. So at Employers, we have an agile approach to where if a problem comes up, we figure out how to solve it and design the system to where it's scalable, not just now, but into the future.
Chris and Dan bring up just some really great points. I think what just gets us excited about this the most is as it evolves, it's only only going to allow that agent to focus on the human aspect of our business, right? To really become that trusted advisor. So removing that friction of, maybe marketing to multiple markets and fighting that whole process of, am I talking to the right underwriter, or am I answering the questions correctly? I mean, ultimately, if this gets executed in a way that we'd like to, it's really going to let that agent that historically has told us, hey, I'm so hung up on servicing these accounts, to really focus on go out there and sell and build relationships and really be a risk advisor consulting to those clients and really adding that value there. So that's the thing that gets me excited about our API solution really evolving.
So we're going to switch gears here and ask some questions about the alternative distribution team, just to get to know the three of you a bit better. So for Chris and Diantha, who have been with the company a long time, how would each of you say has Employers evolved?
Well, as B said, I've been here since we were a state fund, just the state fund in Nevada. So to watch us go from one company, one state, to a national carrier, that's probably a very exciting ride that we've taken. The other thing is that we've always been changing. We're always doing something. But probably in the last 4.5 years since Ray Weiss has been here, I feel like we have really done a lot of incredible things. For those of us who've been here a long time, I think we've all talked to each other and said, wow, we've seen more change since he's been here. And all of the leaders are all talking together, or they're all working together. And like B was saying, IT and underwriting and claims and processes, we are all working together. When you're doing that, when you have that strategy, things happen. And we have really done so much with our internal systems, and just aligning our culture is just amazing. I love the culture that we have here at Employers now. That's really also what makes it really fun here. But ultimately, how far we've come is just amazing.
Yeah, so I've been at Employers 13 years. So the evolution during those 13 years has been really incredible. When I joined Employers, we were less than 10 states. So to now be fully national company as of last year, that evolution alone has been amazing to see. Then also, as far as our focus on the customer, really being able to understand who that small business customer is, I think Employers has evolved. Where we were the state fund, everybody was coming to Employers back then because they had to. Where now there's a choice. Small business space is a very competitive space. So Employers had to evolve with that to make sure that we're the landing spot for small business and for those agents that want to easily place small business with a workers' comp carrier. So to see Employers listen to our agents through our agency councils and evolve in underwriting to make us the easiest carrier to do business with has been fun to see. On the technology side, evolving from a company that was a fast follower to now a leader in the InsurTech digital space, it's a pleasure.
For B, as a relatively newer team member who joined us within the past year, what drew you to Employers?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to your question earlier about what makes the alternative distribution team special, right? And I'm going to give you the same answer. So first and foremost, the people and the culture, right? So, Diantha mentioned our sales leader, Ray, and I think he says it best, is if you surround yourself with the right people, all else will follow, right? And so if you even take that a level higher, and when that culture leaks into your technology, that really creates a competitive advantage, right? That's really a game changer. I think for me too, I've been really lucky in my career, and I've had an opportunity to work with other carriers and get some perspective there. And when I was sitting at the table with other carriers and talking through, hey, what's your digital strategy? There was a lot of talk, but very little execution, right? And so when we got into conversations with Employers and talking about what they've been accomplishing, we've had our API out in the market for 3-4 years now, right, Chris? And you're now just hearing kind of API as part of being the sexy part of the InsurTech. We've been doing it successfully for several years, and it goes back to what Chris mentioned about being a market leader and not a follower. So I go back to the people, the culture, and then also we're very forward-thinking, in my opinion.
What would each of y'all say is the coolest part about your jobs?
Diantha mentioned this earlier, in us kind of being the startup. I think for me, what I really enjoy is really the ability to think outside the traditional means of doing insurance, right? And really getting to think about insurance creatively, right? And we talk about what are some different ways that we can meet our customers, our policyholders, our agents, and what are some creative ways for us to maybe trigger a buying event that we wouldn't have been able to do without the advent of technology. And so that really excites me. I think the omni-channel trend that we're seeing, I think, is critically important to that. But I don't think there's a perfect solve. I think that's what really excites me, is there's going to be a lot of winners in this space.
There's so much. I can't just put my finger on one thing that's really cool about this job. I think there's so many things. Of course, I really enjoy working with my team, and I love the culture at the company. And I really enjoy being able to work with our agents and act as a consultant for them, or even working with the developers. A lot of times I'll hear, wow, we've never had anybody offer to, help us go through the building of an API. I've worked as a territory manager in the past, and I would go see our independent agents in California, and I really love that, and I understand how they do business, but this is just a huge game changer for us. So working with our developers to say, I understand that journey, I know what they're doing, and I understand how we're trying to make a difference here and make that a better journey for them, so it's quick and efficient, and they think of employers when they have some workers' comp that they want to place, because they know that we're making a change.
The coolest part of our jobs, first and foremost, is the people we get to work with, both internally with coworkers that are just the best at what they do, and then externally with customers who really think outside the box and are very, very focused on what the customer needs. That is by far the coolest part. The other cool part to me is being able to make an impact. Being at an insurance carrier, a lot of carriers don't think about the amount of impact. You can't make impact as easily as you can at employers. I feel with our alternative distribution team, we're perfectly positioned where we can make a lot of impact, not just for ourselves, but for the customer. So that is very cool in my eyes.
B.
The other thing that I failed to add, I would say that's the coolest part of our jobs, is we're leveraging a technology to empower our agents, right? And I'm very passionate about the independent channel. I think we all are at Employers. I think sometimes when you hear this talk track of technology, folks raise this red flag of saying, oh, wait, they're trying to replace us or eliminate it. No, we are trying to empower you to become even more meaningful in the marketplace, right? And we referenced that earlier about becoming more and more that trusted advisor. So that, for me, is another piece that I really enjoy about what we do.
So I'm still relatively new to the insurance industry, and a common thing I've heard from a number of people I've talked to is a lot of folks don't strive to be in insurance when they grow up. So I'm just curious, how did each of you get into insurance? Basilios?
I'll shamelessly admit that I chose insurance as a career path, right? So I was recruited out of college. I am your token insurance nerd. And I actually started out in claims as an administrator taking first notice of loss.
Chris?
I definitely didn't plan on insurance. One of the first interviews I went on coming out of college was at a local insurance agency. And the reason I chose that agency over a lot of other job offers was just the family kind of community focus that they had. It was a family-run agency, and it just really appealed to me because I grew up in a small business, agriculture household, and I saw our insurance agent come to speak to my parents every year talking about their renewals, and I just saw how that agent was really taking care of my family's business, and that really resonated with me. And to interview with that agency, I got the same family feeling when that job offer came. So I mean, definitely wasn't as sexy as I was hoping for that first job out of college, but working on the agency side, it really gave me this feeling of protecting other small businesses, and that really resonated and it drew me into insurance even more. And loved working on the agency side, and to join a carrier like Employers, it's just an awesome experience.
Well, I certainly didn't think I was ever going to go into insurance. I actually had my own little store in Nevada. You probably remember these. It was a video store. We used to have a little family-owned video store.
Oh, where?
It was in Stagecoach, Nevada, of all places. It was a little tiny town. Don't know why we got into that at all, but it was something we thought would be a good idea at the time. But it was such a tiny little town, really couldn't support a store. And so one of my customers actually said, well, the state industrial insurance system is hiring. You might want to go there. And it was funny. So they hired me that day. It was supposed to just be a temporary job. I thought, hey, it'd be nice to work for money. So I started, and I actually, 23 years later, I'm still here. One of the things I love about this company is that as a woman, it's been so great to have so many different opportunities. I've worked in claims and underwriting, and I was a business analyst. I got into the project management office, and then luckily I was able to get into alternative distribution. So, and I've spent a lot of time in sales as well. So it's been a really fantastic career for me. And I think when I talk to other women in the industry, they feel the same way. I mean, this is a great industry for women, and there's so many different directions that you can go. While I didn't start in insurance, I'm really glad I'm here.
Very well said from all of you. With that said, what's your advice to anyone wanting to enter the industry?
Well, as I said before, I think this is a great industry. And of course, I mentioned women specifically, but there's a lot of successful people, men and women, and I think it's a great career path. I think kids in college should be more like B, where maybe give it a try. It is actually really exciting. The word insurance doesn't sound exciting, but there's a lot of fun things that happen in the industry, and you meet so many incredible people. They're so smart, and they really understand the value of insurance and protecting people. And at the end of the day, that's really what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to take care of everybody, and it's really cool. And we've been able to travel and do agency events and things like that. It's just a lot of fun, and I would really encourage people to do it.
I think I would give two pieces of advice. One is just be a student of the business, right? Really take time to learn all aspects of it. I think what that does, it's going to allow you and open up doors for opportunities, so you can move into different disciplines or different aspects of the business, right? I was lucky that I had a mentor early on, right, that really said in insurance, it's primarily sales, underwriting, and claims. And if you can really get exposure to all three, you're really going to be well-rounded enough to really go where you might want to go. So I would say, just be a student, find that mentor early on. I used to always be ashamed of telling people I was in insurance because I didn't think it was sexy. But as I matured, I realized how rewarding this industry was, and really how passionate the folks that I'm surrounded with are about protecting what's important to others out there, right? So don't discount it, and I think a lot of people do.
Yeah, my advice would be just to try it out. Get your foot in the door, whatever position it is at that insurance company or at that agency. The appeal of insurance for me was that there's a lot of different avenues that you can work within the insurance industry. That might not be your first job, but you can get a sense for what that right fit is for you. And at an insurance company like an Employers, maybe your first job is not exactly what you see for yourself. There's options. You can be in sales. You can be in underwriting. You can be in IT. There's not too many industries that have those kind of opportunities available to their employees. And just definitely get involved in insurance if you can.
So as we begin to wrap up here, what and or who has helped shape you into the person you are today? Chris?
Yeah, when I think about people that have shaped me over my life and career into the person I am today, I think, of course, of family first. Growing up with 3 older brothers and very active parents in my education and everything, that by far shaped me more than anything else. But secondly, I would say teachers and coaches. I was a baseball player all my childhood, and fortunately enough to do it through college as well. But having great college coaches and high school coaches to help me how to understand failure and overcome it. In a sport like baseball, you fail more than you succeed. So just being able to have a support system to be able to help me deal with that failure and continue to work hard.
Basilios?
So, Adam, I'm going to try to win brownie points here. I'm going to say my wife. In all sincerity, she's really shaped me into the person I am today, right? So I think that's where a lot of successful marriages work, right, is you really complement each other and you really become one. I'm not trying to give marital counseling. She plays an important aspect in my life. She's really been my rock and my advocate throughout my career, right? And it's always raised the flag for me, right? In the moments that I'm down and the moments that I'm up, she's been a tremendous aspect. The other piece that, I'd be remiss to not bring up has been my father. So I'm first generation. And so growing up, I had the ability and the blessing of watching someone support their family and work multiple jobs just to put food on the table, right? And then really driving home that hardworking spirit and the value of family first and foremost, and the value of faith and community. So those are really the two folks in my life that really have made a tremendous impact.
Well, I think that there's so many people that helped me along the way, but, like Chris said, first and foremost, it's your family. When you're young, that's who you look up to, and that's who they kind of tell you what you should think and how you should be. But I lost my mom really young. I was only 20 years old when I lost her. So I was, as I was a young mom myself, I was trying to learn how to be a mother without a mother. And I think that's really tough a lot of times. But I had my father and good friends and family, my aunts. So just helped me become a mother, a good mother. I tried real hard. Sometimes I wonder if, you take a second guess if am I doing the right thing? It was not always easy being a single mom. As I got older, I came into the company 23 years ago, and then I started just, really wanted to work all the time. Everything was work focused. And so I think a lot of times people try to help me to realize you don't have to wrap everything up in work. You don't have to be a workaholic. So take a step back and be more well-rounded, right? So such good advice from so many people. And lastly, my husband now, he's my rock. And he's just so solid on his advice. And he's also in sales too, so he can help me and shape me and teach me things that maybe I hadn't thought of. There's been a lot of people.
What's something you failed at but have learned so much from? And this can be personal or professional.
I don't know if this is exactly failing, but just it's a learning experience. I think when I was young, I really wanted to control every situation. One of my good friends, he's in sales, Eddie Traps, he would always say, Diantha, you know what your problem is? You try to control everything, and you need to just relax. You don't have to control everything. And so that was probably a big lesson. And maybe these guys will tell you, maybe I still haven't learned, but I do try to roll with things now. I don't try to be the smartest girl in the room all the time. I want to let other people shine. It's a great growth experience.
As far as trying to indicate one area where I failed, there's been probably too many to count in my lifetime, both professionally and personally. But the way I like to look at failure is it creates an opportunity, and that's even in our positions where we're trying to marry distribution and technology together. We expect to fail. It's a humbling, really, approach to it, but we find that we grow much faster when we accept failure and when we accept it quickly and learn from it. And my advice, though, is everybody's going to fail. Just don't look at it that way. Stay open-minded and have a good support group. Like we have a great team here to rely on and bounce ideas off of each other so that you can hold each other accountable and yet continue to improve.
Basilios?
I just struggle with the word failed, but I think something that I learned from early on, right, and more so looking back, is just give it time. I was so ambitious and eager early on in my career, right, and I feel like I deserve this, right, and then you get afforded the opportunity and you go, whoa, there's a lot to this that I didn't expect, right? And so really being patient in the process is important because there's a lot to learn just from that. The example that I would give is I desperately wanted to be in a leadership role, and I was afforded that opportunity. And it was, at the time, it was extremely painful. But looking back, I learned so much, and I don't think I'd be in this place with this team hadn't that happened, right? So it's hard for me to say it's a failure because the outcome was severely outweighed by positive outcomes. So be patient, right? Everything has its time. Trust the process.
What do each of you like to do for fun?
So I am the proud father of an almost 4-year-old girl and a 6-month-old son. So I really enjoy sleep. So all joking aside, I really enjoy just watching everything through their eyes. The example that I'll give is I used to be one of those guys that would dog folks for going to Disney, right? And then we took our daughter there, and it was like the best experience of my life. So for me, that's the most. In the season of life I'm in right now, just the fun for me is making sure that my kids are having fun. Outside of that, I am an adrenaline junkie, and I joke that it's because everything I do professionally is all about mitigating risk, so why not throw that out the window in my personal life, right? So I love mountain biking, love skiing, those things. But for me, it's about the family and the kids.
Oh, gosh, there's so much we'd love to do. My husband and I are just having such a great time now. Our kids are grown. We love visiting our kids and hanging out with them, but I think, living by the beach, we like to get out on our paddle boards, kayaking, things like that. We spend a lot of time with our friends. We go boating, travel. It's just, we're having a great time. So I don't know about some empty nesters, but we're having a really good time being empty nesters.
Yeah, so a couple things I like to do for fun is spend family time together. I have an 8th grader and a 6th grader at home, so my wife and I like to travel as much as we can with them, go into different baseball parks throughout the country and just go on trips with friends and family. But traveling, in addition to that, on a daily basis, probably coaching my sons. My sons play multiple sports, but I always try to coach them every season in baseball. So that's very quality time with us. Baseball is a very humbling sport, so being able to talk through life experiences and just keep that communication open with my kids. Even though baseball is the main focus, it leads to a lot of better conversations. So I really enjoy that.
What profession other than your own would each of you like to attempt? Basilios?
I don't know if I want to admit this, but I am fascinated with magic. Like, I love magic. I would love to be a magician. I don't know what it is if it's the idea of presenting something there that's not really there, right? I always joke that if I was in insurance, I would be a magician.
Ms. Kelly?
I love what I'm doing right now, but if there was something I could do, and this goes back to making a difference. My husband and I love kitties. We love cats. We would love to have maybe a shelter or a rescue for cats, safe place for them. I think that would be really fun to do. Nothing as exciting as what B wants to be. But maybe I could be his, assistant or something in the future.
Chris?
All right, I'm going to be very specific with my profession of choice. I'm going to be the general manager of the Chicago Cubs. So baseball's always been a passion of mine, and with with where baseball and kind of data is really coming together, it's just fascinating to me to be able to look at different players and compare them using data and build a team together to play the game of baseball the best possible way it could be played. In baseball, you can't just be one type of person. It takes a team of a lot of different skill sets. So just being in a general manager position where you can pull all these strengths together and build a team, it's fascinating to me.
Chris, I'm curious. So you grew up in the Fresno area of California. How did you become a Chicago Cubs fan?
So I became a Cub fan when I was 8 years old. So back then, being from around Fresno originally, we really didn't have any local sports teams. So we couldn't really just pick up and drive to LA or San Francisco. That just didn't appeal to me. But when I'd come home from school, every day on WGN, it'd be the Chicago Cubs playing. So being able to see the Cubs players and follow them, it was like they were my local team, even though they were in Chicago and I was in Central Valley, California. Being loyal to that team, even though Cubs have not been the greatest over my lifetime. I got to celebrate with my kids in 2016 when the Cubs won. They became Cubs fans as well, so it's been fun to kind of pass that along. Got to take my kids to Wrigley Field and see the Cubs in person several times, so very important to me to stay loyal to a team.
So the reason I give Chris such a hard time about being a Cubs fan is because I'm an Indians fan, right? So I was on the other side of history and actually had the privilege of being at the World Series for Game 7, and so nearly died of a heart attack, right? My standing heart rate was like 130 to 140 in the 8th inning, so I'm just glad and lucky to be alive.
Is there anything else the three of you would like to add before we wrap up?
Employers is a phenomenal company to work for, primarily because of the people, but the other thing that gets us excited again is just the advent of technology and how we're deploying it as a team, right? And then at its core for us, just want to drive home that the independent agent is still the primary customer of our business, right? And so we just want to make sure that they hear that they're an important piece of the equation, and it's, just because we're talking about technology doesn't mean we're using it to displace, right? We're using it to really empower what they do on the day in and day out.
I want to thank the Employers Alternative Distribution team for joining me on the Employers Emphasis. So hey, if you like the podcast, we'd love for you to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcasting app, whether it's Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, or Spotify, and that way you'll be notified every time a new episode is uploaded. Before we go, be sure to head to our website at employers.com, where you can find small business tips, resources, and request a workers' compensation insurance quote. Also, follow Employers on social media on Facebook by searching Employers, America's Small Business Insurance Specialist. We're on Twitter and Instagram at the handle @employers_ins. Search Employers on LinkedIn. And on YouTube, our channel is at Employers Video, all one word. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Adam Varahachakol with the Employers Emphasis, and we'll catch you next time.